today for this interview, Minister Valtonen.
Thank you so much for having me.
So it's summer and the holiday season in Europe. So I must ask, have you found any time at all for Finnish summer activities, such as having sauna by the lake yet?
Well, you see, I actually tend to do sauna in the archipelago these days, if I only have the chance. But the problem has been that it's been way too hot in the in the past week, so you really haven't needed a sauna for that. But absolutely, that's one of my favorite hobbies.
All right. So let's dive straight into one of today's hot topics. President Trump's plans regarding Russia and Ukraine. We know that President Trump spoke with European leaders, including Finland's President Stubb, on Wednesday. Can you give us any color about that call? What do the plans look like now?
Well, unfortunately, I can't give you any color on these talks. Obviously, extremely confidential at this level. What we, of course, hoping, and I'm speaking, I guess, not only for Finland, but the rest of Europe and certainly for Ukraine as well, is that there will be a ceasefire as soon as possible and a fair end to the war.
Right. So apparently, a trilateral meeting between Presidents Trump, Zelensky, and Putin is in the works. What is your reaction to European leaders not being invited?
Um, well, I think if there are talks concerning a cessation of the Russian hostilities in Ukraine, then certainly this is something that only essentially Russia can agree on because it was Russia who started the war in the first place. I'm not so worried about Europe not being around the table because we are there represented essentially by Ukraine, who we are strongly supporting. And of course, there can't be a situation where around the table there would be talks about issues which would be concerning Europe in broader terms, because obviously it is Europe who is deciding on its own behalf on these things. But certainly we would welcome, any steps forward what comes to a ceasefire, first of all. I think it would be a great start to any talks to have a ceasefire. Just let the arms rest and let the talks begin. That is certainly something that we have been pushing for quite some time. And well, what comes to any talks, or in terms of making um, some sort of compromises, then certainly it will be up to the parties to make those talks.
Right. President Trump has threatened to impose new sanctions on Russia today, on Friday, unless President Putin agrees to end the war in Ukraine. Do you expect Trump to move forward with the sanctions this time? And what kind of impact do you see them having?
Mhm. Well, I certainly hope that President Trump will move forward with those sanctions. What we do see and suspect now as well is that the reason that Russia has again shown some willingness to talks is that the increased arms deliveries by the US or from the US, also partly paid by European countries to Ukraine, are definitely piling up to the pressure on Russia to find a way out of the war. And that is certainly what we have been observing over the course of the past months as well, that unfortunately only pressure works. Moscow can do its own calculus on when to run out of money. That hasn't happened yet. Certainly, their fiscal situation is not as good as it was 3 years ago, and certainly their economic situation is even worse, especially in the long term. But that so far has not made Putin end the war. So our position is clear. We need to be piling up on the pressure and then hope that Russia will react positively one day, which means that they will end their invasion.
You mentioned arms deliveries to Ukraine. Why is Finland not participating in the effort of purchasing American weapons for Ukraine?
Well, Finland is one of the largest donors of military aid to Ukraine, and of course, all sorts of aid also um, uh, next to that. So essentially, what we have put together now is we have sent 29 packages in total of military aid to Ukraine, and also we have published our new initiative of more or less starting a new military industry compact with Ukraine, which will produce exactly the type of equipment that Ukraine needs and in time. So Finland is focused on these programs that we have been engaged in very, very strongly over the course of the past months and years. And we salute, of course, every effort by any other country to aid Ukraine in whichever way they find possible. And also it has to be said that Finland, of course, has always taken its own defense very seriously, and therefore we have had a strong inventory of military material to send over to Ukraine, unlike many other countries. So those countries who perhaps do lack their own material to send over, they can easily send euros or dollars and purchase equipment from wherever it's possible, and certainly from the US or some of the material is very strongly needed by Ukraine, which can be purchased in the US.
So let's move on to another hot topic of the day, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Israel's political security cabinet just approved a plan to take control of Gaza City. How do you view this development?
We have been strongly opposing any attempts to alter or reduce the amount of land which is by the agreement of 1967 dedicated to the Palestinian people. So, of course, we have been following these comments with great worry, and we do think that it is so important now and in this time to keep alive the prospect for the two-state solution, even though it looks very difficult at this moment. So certainly the Finnish priorities are clear. There must be immediate humanitarian relief to the people. There must be uninhibited access to all parts of Gaza, to the people of humanitarian aid. At the same time, we do not accept at all any increasing settlements or the enlargement of settlements, but neither the violence which we have observed by the illegal settlers towards the Palestinians on the West Bank. So this has to stop, and we hope that there is an immediate release of the hostages and also an immediate return to a ceasefire, which would also help in the acute situation to help the civilians, but at the same time it could be used as a platform for a wider political solution for the area.
Okay. In recent times, several countries, including France, have moved to recognize Palestine as a state to address the severe humanitarian situation in Gaza. But your government says this is not the right time for the recognition. When is the right time for Finland?
We have put together foreign and security policy paper just a year ago, which has been accepted broadly by the Finnish parliament. And well, first of all, there is very strong support for the two-state solution. And also, we have put together some sort of criteria for the two-state solution to move forward. Not directly any criteria for recognizing Palestine, for instance. But what we do think is extremely important is that we focus not only on the peaceful future for the Palestinian people, but also on the peaceful future for Israel, because otherwise there can't be, by definition, be a two-state solution, and certainly not peace going forward. So therefore, we have appreciated all the efforts, especially in the conference in New York last week, by the international community to put together concrete steps towards the two-state solution, which also includes a wide range, recognition by Arab countries of Hamas being a terrorist group, and also the embracement of the idea that Hamas certainly cannot be included in any type of administration for the Palestinians going forward, cannot be part of the Palestinian Authority, and also, of course, calling for a release of the hostages, and also a condemnation of the attack, of the heinous attack by Hamas on the 7th of October, by not only the Palestinian Authority, but also by several other Arab states, which we hadn't actually heard so far. So there have to be concrete steps, which essentially mean that there will be a mutual recognition of a Palestinian state at some point, but also the normalization of relations between Arab countries and several countries and with Israel. So these talks that have actually started some months ago, and we do applaud both France's and Saudi Arabia's efforts in this regard. These talks are moving forward, and we hope there will be some new progress and even more progress in September.
You mentioned September. Could you imagine Finland joining the UK, for example, in recognizing Palestine in September if the Gaza suffering doesn't come to an end before?
We are, as Finland, we are making our national analysis of the situation, and we do follow different criteria on when would be a right time to recognize. And certainly we are observing the situation also in the international arena on a daily basis. But so far, there are no news I could tell you.
We know that Finland's government is divided on this question. It is a coalition of 4 parties, and 2 of your smaller allies have openly said that they oppose recognizing Palestine. How about you personally? Are you in favor of the recognition or not?
As a Finnish foreign minister, I am obviously bound and also personally strongly attached to the foreign and security white paper, which we have put together and which is finding 100% almost recognition in the Finnish parliament. And that certainly is a good framework for solving the situation, also recognizing obviously that Finland will not be the country who will decide on the future of the Middle East. But it's a very balanced approach. So essentially really emphasizing the need for the two-state solution and laying out the groundwork for when the mutual recognition could and should be possible.
Are you worried about the looming famine in Gaza?
I am extremely worried, and unfortunately, this famine has been looming there for quite some time, and certainly even not. It doesn't even have to be as bad as famine, but simply the fact that people are not having regular access to the most basic and essential goods people need for a living. Also, not having obviously their homes anymore because people have been moved around quite a bit, living in uncertain conditions in shelters. This is not a situation we can accept, and not to mention all the civilian casualties which this war has already taken. It has to come to an end.
Let's go back to the topic of European security. The Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe that you chair just celebrated its 50th anniversary here in Helsinki last week. It was founded here in 1975 to reduce the ideological confrontation between the East and West, and sort of with the aim of opening a small crack in the Iron Curtain that then divided Europe. Do you see any path towards such detente in Europe at the moment in European relations?
The OSCE counts 57 participating states, and the vast majority, I would claim well over 50 of those participating states, are well and happy with the original Helsinki Final Act with the 10 principles of, say, non-violation of borders and the mutual recognition of each other's security needs, but essentially also the recognition of human rights and the freedom of people. So I wouldn't be so worried about the OSCE or the future of Europe as such. I would be worried about the future of Russia. And essentially these autocrats who do not follow the will of their people, but who on the very contrary try to oppress the free media, their opposition in those countries, and also, well, the possibility of people to engage in rules-based market economy and in the political system. So that is what I'm worried about. And certainly with the OSCE, whose groundwork was laid 50 years ago, back in 75 in Helsinki with the CSCE conference, it does valuable work, essentially in the neighborhood of the European Union, in those countries where people have decided that they also want to get rid of corruption. They want to embrace a full rule of law approach to their society. They want to live in a democracy. So the OSCE, together with other organizations, helps on the grassroots level these people to achieve these goals one day. And also, of course, many of these countries want to be joining the European Union, even NATO, and these prospects have to be kept alive. Unfortunately, this is exactly the prospect that Russia fears most, or Russia's leader seems to be fearing most, which is the freedom to choose by its own people.
Talking about Russia, Russia's war in Ukraine has gone on for 3.5 years now. And lately, we have witnessed massive bombing of Ukrainian cities again. How is this war ever going to come to an end? Do you see any opportunity for exit?
Well, it is actually quite simple. It was Russia who started this war completely unprovoked. So Russia could also end the war today if they wanted to. If it was just Ukraine unilaterally laying down their arms, then you could easily count on a future where there's no Ukraine anymore. So Ukraine, based on the UN Charter, the international law, has the full right to defend itself, not only its civilians, whom Russia is bombing by the night, but also its territorial integrity and its sovereignty. And this is happening on the battlefield. Unfortunately, when we talk Russia, then we talk about a country who does not put much value on human life. Russia has taken in massive losses on the battlefield over the course of the past year, both what comes to personnel, but also what comes to material. But they don't seem to care because they are willing to fight until their last ruble is found, unfortunately. So the only strategy that we, as the international community, who is interested in peace and lasting peace based on the international rules that we have put together ourselves and together as the international community, is that we keep on aiding Ukraine. And unfortunately, this strategy doesn't pay off overnight, but certainly does pay off in the long term because Russia can't go on like this forever.
On the other hand, in Ukraine, we are also seeing a democratic backlash against President Zelensky, with some Ukrainians accusing him of authoritarian measures. In your opinion, is Zelensky doing enough to address these concerns?
It has to be, everything that Ukraine does has to be seen against the background that still some 15 years ago, Ukraine very much was in the Soviet legacy with no real democracy. a very, very corrupt country, which it unfortunately still is. And the second thing is, of course, that Ukraine is defending itself. It is in a war situation. So you couldn't be expecting things from Ukraine, which you can expect from Finland or Sweden, right? But having said this, of course, we observe the situation very, very closely. And also, we're not so happy 2 weeks ago when Zelensky introduced this bill on how to essentially limit the work of the corruption agencies, which are independent. Now they reversed the law a week ago, and we hope this will be for the better. But certainly not just as Finland, but as the European Union, since not only Ukraine, but which is more important, the Ukrainian people have decided that they want to live the European way of life, enter the European Union one day, and make all those changes which are required, then we are aiding Ukraine and the Ukrainian people every day with those changes, with those reforms, because each and every step by which you are able to rid corruption, to make the judicial system, the rule of law work better, to increase the transparency of democracy and make more room for civil society and free media and the opposition. We are fully engaged in each and every step. And these steps might one day lead to the membership in the European Union. But every single step in that direction will help those people as we speak. So certainly we are very strongly engaged in this project, and of course also react very strongly if we do observe that there's a development which goes the opposite way.
Being mindful of our time, let's talk a little bit about the EU relations with the United States. How satisfied are you with the outcome of the US-EU trade deal?
Of course, I'm not satisfied with any tariffs. I'm a free market person, and I do think that, especially in this time, friends and allies should not be imposing tariffs against each other. Now, the United States has decided to impose tariffs. Luckily, those tariffs are not as high as was suspected at one point. And we also hope that at some point in the future, which is hopefully not too far away, we could engage in new negotiations by which we could move towards a zero tariff zone and even a free trade zone, which I think we should actually really embrace within the alliance. Not just between the European Union and the United States of America, but essentially among those countries who do share the same values and the same security environment. So within NATO, if you will. So that would be one. The second thing is that the European Union did not impose any tariffs on the United States. Makes sense because it's economics 101 when you learn that protectionism doesn't help you. You should get rid of protectionism even unilaterally. So I think it's only fair and it's a good strategy that the European Union works as it preaches. Having said this, of course, not happy of any tariffs, and we hope certainly that we could get rid of those in the near future.
Why was it so important for the EU to rush into a deal now? Are you at all concerned by the fact that some countries may be striking better deals than the EU did?
Of course, you can negotiate deals over and over again if you want to, and I hope, as already stated, we could go back to the negotiating table at some point and see if we could get rid of those existing tariffs or the new tariffs which were imposed. Having said this, the worst thing that can happen to companies is also lasting uncertainty. So it was good to, at this stage, to put an end to this uncertainty and agree on at least something. And we do hope that this certainly is the maximum level of tariffs there will ever be between friends and allies, and we are able to negotiate a level which is much better for certainly European companies, but at the same time also for the American man and woman on the street.
What kind of feedback are you getting from Finnish trade stakeholders regarding the deal? Are they happy with it?
This is not the end of the world, but of course, some companies are more hit than others. And again, it's never good to have more tariffs. We are engaged in a very deep and growing trade relationship with the United States. Finland is just about to open a new consulate general in Houston, in Texas, and we are very strongly deepening our trade ties. So any tariffs will not stand in the way, but certainly they are not what we are expecting either.
Right. I'm afraid we only have a few minutes left of our time. So I thought that to close this off, I could ask you 5 short ones, if you don't mind.
Yeah, they are the most difficult ones typically.
Yeah. So first, what are you reading right now?
I'm actually reading a book, a German book. It's called Die Diplomatin, funnily. So The Diplomat. I can't remember the author's names. It's Lucy. I can't remember her last name, but it's entertaining. It's a novel.
All right. Who is your favorite foreign colleague?
I couldn't possibly tell you that. I have so many colleagues who are not just solid as partners in crime in foreign policy, but very good friends as well.
Which is your favorite country besides Finland?
I couldn't possibly tell you that.
Is that a diplomatic issue?
Well, you see, I'm I'm training to be a diplomat, so that's why I try to avoid these trick questions. But Finland, obviously, my favorite country in the world, and there are so many perfect, very nice countries around. And I must say, I'm a strong European, so the second best country must be, or is most likely a European one as well.
All right. Who has inspired you in life?
I have been inspired by many people, but I must say that one source of inspiration who unfortunately has died almost 20 years ago was my grandmother, who started off in very basic, say, living circumstances, but she became an entrepreneur, and she certainly showed that despite all the difficulties in life, you can be not just happy, but also a loving person to your family and everybody else, but also achieve great things.
Last one. Where would you travel on your holiday after you've had enough sauna by the sea?
Well, my favorite place, again, I'm sorry, is the Finnish archipelago. So that's where I would go. I love Åland and the Åland Islands. It's just so peaceful and beautiful there. So that's certainly where I would go. Sorry, it's Finland. I'm biased, but that's how it is. That's the truth.
All right, that's all we have time for today. Thank you so much for joining us today, Minister Valtonen, and thank you everyone for watching.
Thank you so much, Anne.